Hey, good morning, everybody. How's it going?
So good.
So good. I love that. I love it when people are doing so good. I'm doing so good as well. It's great to be here on Sunday morning. You know, Natalie, Oliver, and I missed you last Sunday because we were on vacation, which was really good, really refreshing. And, you know, as much as vacations are awesome, and it's good to get a break and, you know, not worry about some things that you normally worry about in your normal life, it's so good to come back.
Yeah.
It's so good to be back here with family and just be connected with you guys. So it's so good to see you. And like I said, yeah, it's so good. Thank you. This is the whole theme of the lesson. So good. Everything is so good. It's so good. It's not just good. It's so good. Oh yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about dung gates today too. It's so good. So good. So, speaking of dung gates, not really, but what we've been doing for the last couple weeks, we started a new journey in the book of Nehemiah a couple weeks ago. So currently we're going to be in chapter 3. Of course, that has been preceded by chapters 1 and 2. So I'm going to break it down for a little bit. You know, I don't know about you, for those of you that have been here listening to these lessons, but for me, Nehemiah has been incredibly inspiring just to see how God has worked through Nehemiah, to see the courage that God has given Nehemiah, and the things that Nehemiah has done with that courage from God. It's really awesome, inspiring, and convicting. And so in Nehemiah chapter 1, what we saw Nehemiah praying. And he was praying for courage to deal with a situation that troubled him. That prayer prepared him for action. And then in chapter 2, we saw him actually take some action based on that courage. He actually did something. And so the thing that was troubling him this entire time was that the walls of Jerusalem and their gates had been burned with fire and were destroyed and lay in ruins. And he wanted to go back and he wanted to rebuild these walls of Jerusalem. And so in chapter 2, we see that he's got this courage now, and he talks to the king of Persia, he gets permission to go, and then he actually heads out to Jerusalem from where he was to start rebuilding the walls. And in chapter 2, it ended with him. He shows up in Jerusalem and he inspects the walls and gets a plan in place for what it's going to look like to start. And as we jump into chapter 3 this morning, we're going to see Nehemiah and his team actually start going after fixing these walls and restoring the walls of Jerusalem. And so as we go through this, as we see this chapter open up, we're going to see a very powerful example of what it looks like and what it takes to do great things for God. So with that, let's go ahead and just dive right in. Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 1. There's a lot of great and exciting names in here. I'm going to just say them confidently, like I know that that's how they're said, and you can talk to me later if you disagree. Anyway, Eliashib the high priest and his fellow priests went to work and rebuilt the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set its doors in place, building as far as the Tower of the 100, which they dedicated, and as far as the Tower of Hananel. The men of Jericho built the adjoining section, and Zechor son of Imri built next to them. The fish gate was rebuilt by the sons of Hesenah. They laid its beams and put its doors and bolts and bars in place. Meremoth, son of Uriah, the son of Hakaz, repaired the next section. Next to him, Meshullam, son of Berechiah, the son of Meshizabel, made repairs. And next to him, Zadok, son of Bana, also made repairs. The next section was made by the men of Tekoa, but their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervisors. The section was repaired, the Jeshanah gate was repaired by Joiada, son of Paseah, and Meshullam, son of Besadiah. Then they laid its beams and put its doors with their bolts and bars in place. Next to them, repairs were made by men from Gibeon and Mizpah, Melatiah of Gibeon and Jadon of Meronoth, places under the authority of the governor of the Trans-Euphrates. Uzziel, son of Hariah, one of the goldsmiths, repaired the next section, and Hananiah, one of the perfume makers, made repairs next to that. They restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. And we're going to stop there because I can't do any more of these names. It's intense. But really, this first little chunk of Nehemiah is very, very accurately depiction of what the rest of Nehemiah looks like. Because literally, the rest of the chapter just goes on to talk about who built what section of the wall around Jerusalem and the gates that were restored and getting the whole city back to the way it was supposed to be. So it just goes on over and over again and talks about the different people that did the work. And again, through this story, we see a very powerful example of what it takes to do something great for God. And what is that great, what is that thing, what does it take to do something great for God? Well, it doesn't take me It's not my project. It's not the thing that I need to do. It's not my role to change things or my role to make it different. It wasn't Nehemiah's project. No, it took everyone. It took all of them to complete this project, to get this building going, so that way the city of Jerusalem could be restored. So what does it take to do great things for God? It takes us. It takes we. It takes everybody coming together, working together to be able to build God's kingdom, to be able to build His family. Now I want you to think about this for a second. I want you to think about the greatest achievements, the things that you are most proud of in your life, whatever comes to mind for you, the things that you've done or accomplished, the goals that you've been able to accomplish. Can you legitimately, as you think about those, can you legitimately say that you've accomplished any one of those things by yourself? Entirely by yourself? I highly doubt it. Because I even think about simple things that I can easily say, oh, I did by myself. So, for example, I wrote this lesson that I'm now delivering to you now. I was working on it this week, and I was sitting in my office alone doing it, right? So I could say, oh, I wrote a lesson by myself, but I didn't, because I used it, I wrote a lesson based on the Bible, which of course included hundreds of brothers and sisters writing to be able to do that, and then thousands and thousands of scribes over thousands of years to get me the translation that we have in front of us now, right? And then I was taking all of my notes on a computer, which I did not build, which was built by hundreds of dozens, designed by hundreds of people in some other place and time, and I was working on a computer program that was designed by other people. So literally, thousands of people come together for us to be talking right now. It's amazing. And that's just one small thing. I think about things that are much more meaningful to me than one Sunday lesson. I think about the ability to build church family. I think about the ability to build my physical family and to have my son and my wife together. I think about being able to go out and to help other people become Christians. I think about those accomplishments that I've been able to do in my life. And by definition, even just those things, by definition, they require other people. I can't build church family without you guys showing up. I can't build my physical family, right, without my wife. It's not a thing that's going to happen, right? So it's one of those things that, by definition, so many of the things that are most meaningful for us take us, right? It takes us working together about bringing our God-given strengths together to advance God's kingdom for His glory. There's so many things like that. Romans chapter 12, verse 3, I think, really highlights this need in the family, how the family of God really works. In verse 3 it says in Romans 12, For by the grace given to me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not have all the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. For if it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. And so if we want to make an impact on this world for God, it takes each of us doing our part. It takes each of us making the decision to do our part. And so the question is never really, what can I do for God? Sometimes we ask that question, what can I do for God? That's not the right question. The question is, what can we do for God? And then how can I contribute? What can we do collectively for God? And then how can I contribute to doing that? Because again, that is what the family of God, that is what church is all about. It's bringing together those strengths and talents and gifts that have come from God to be able to advance His kingdom, to be able to build something greater than we could ever build on our own. And so the question for us then is, how can I contribute? How can I contribute? How can you contribute to what we are building for God and His glory? And for the record, for here, our little local church in Fairbanks, part of the bigger picture, I get it, but what we're doing here, what we're building, We're building relationships. We're building convictions. We're building real, genuine, honest family. We're building a camp in Talkeetna. We're building partnerships with churches across the globe to advance the mission there. We're hopefully and prayerfully going to be building a camp for special needs individuals here in Fairbanks this year. There's lots of physical building. There's lots of kind of this relationship building. There's the partnership building in the gospel. We're building all over the place. And so the question again is, you think about those things. This is what we're building. How can you contribute? How can you work together with us collectively to be able to build for God? And so that's what I want you guys to be thinking about. That's what I want us to be talking about today. What is it that you're going to contribute? Let's do that. Let's commit ourselves to building together, to working together to build something awesome, to use those strengths and gifts for the greater purpose of advancing God's kingdom here on earth. And then as we do that, let's just see what God does. Let's just see how God uses us collectively as a church family to do great things, to change our lives, to change the lives of people around us, to be able to change the community and ultimately to change the world. Amen?